Hello, ladies and gentlemen, this is Mr. Santoro, and welcome to the latest edition of Math 12R Screencast. Tonight's episode will focus on using the power rule to find the derivative. We've been using the limit definition of the derivative to find the derivative, and there are many steps on that, and it is a tedious process, so we're going to be looking at something called the power rule to find the derivative. So the power rule says that if you have this function f of x, it's equal to x to the sum power, the n power. The derivative is derived by finding the derivative derived. Okay. You take the exponent, multiply by the coefficient, which is the number in front of the x. That number goes in front of the x now. Then you take your original exponent and subtract 1 from it. Before we actually do that, let's take a look at some exponent review, because your functions must be in the format of this, not as a fraction or a radical. Okay. So 1 over x to the a is x to the negative a. Remember, the negative sign means it's a fraction. 3 over x to the a is 3x to the negative a. And the radical, the number in the notch, the root, is the denominator of the radical, of the fractional exponent of the radical. Let's take a look at a couple of functions. F of x equals 8x squared minus 2. You cannot take the derivative of a constant, a number. You can only take a derivative of a term that has a variable in it, an x in it. So the derivative says, the power rule says you take the exponent of 2, multiply it by the coefficient of 8, you get 16. Then I go back to this exponent of 2 and subtract 1. So the derivative of that function is merely 16x. 8 times 2 is 16. 2 minus 1 is 1, x to the first. The next function, 1 over x cubed plus 1. You have to write it as x to the negative 3 plus 1. The power rule says you take the exponent, negative 3, multiply it by the coefficient, which is 1. You have negative 3x. Take the exponent negative 3, subtract 1, you get negative 4. So the derivative of this function is negative 3x to the negative 4 power. Let's take a look at this last one. The f of x equals the 4th root of x. So you have to change that to f of x equals x to the 1/4. Then the power rule says exponent times coefficient. Coefficient is 1. So it's 1/4 x. Now you might want to go grab your calculator and pause the screencast, because you need to take 1/4 and subtract 1 from that. You can do that all in the calculator. F of x equals 1/4 x to the negative 3/4. Now the next section at the bottom of your sheet is practice. It says use the power rule, find the derivative. So maybe you want to pause the screencast right now. Go get your calculator in case you need to deal with any fractions. And then try these on your own and come back to the screencast, and I'll go over the answers with you then. So hopefully you paused the screencast, and if so, welcome back. So let's look at the derivative. F of x equals 5x minus 4. The exponent we don't write as a 1. So 1 times 5 is 5. And then you subtract 1 from the exponent. 1 minus 1 is 0. Anything to the 0 power is 1. So the derivative of 5x minus 4 is simply 5. We look at the next problem. 4x squared minus 2x plus 1. 2 times 4 is 8. X to the first minus, the exponent there is 1. 2 times minus 2. X to the 0 is 1. 2 times 1 is 2. So your derivative is 8x minus 2. The third one, 1/3 x to the 4th minus 4x to the 5th. 4 times the third is 4/3. You go back to your exponent, subtract 1. So it's 4/3 x cubed minus 5 times 4 is 20, x to the 4th. Remember, it's exponent times coefficient, then subtract 1 from the exponent. The last one, 5 minus 1 over x to the 4th. You have to rewrite that to 5 minus x to the negative 4. So now, since you can't take the derivative of a constant, you disregard that. So now you multiply the exponent of negative 4, the coefficient is negative 1. Negative 4 times negative 1 is 4. X to the negative 4 minus 1 is negative 5. So the derivative of the original function is 4x to the negative 5th power. If you need to go back and watch the screencast again, do that. We'll be going over these in class, and we'll be getting more practice with it. So thank you for tuning in to the latest episode of Math 12-Hour Screencast.